So how does a high school dropout, a guy from the projects of Queens, New York, end up owning the most expensive home in Tampa, Florida? Well, today, we're diving into the raw, the unfiltered, and the, let's be honest, unbelievably effective playbook of real estate mogul Ben Mallah.
And that quote right there, that's pretty much the key to his entire philosophy. See, it's not just about working hard, it's about being willing to do the stuff nobody else wants to do, to push into territory that makes other people uncomfortable. And that philosophy, well, it paid off, to the tune of $250 million. Yeah, you heard that right. That's the estimated value of his real estate empire. It's a staggering number that gets even crazier when you really see where he started from. And this is the core of it, right? It's a total paradox. On one side, you got a kid from the projects who dropped out of high school. On the other, a real estate tycoon living in a $16.5 million mansion. So the big question is, how in the world do you bridge that gap? Well, the answer starts way back at the beginning.
You see, Malah's whole approach to business, his whole approach to life, really, he didn't learn this stuff in some fancy business school. Nope. It was forged in a childhood that he just describes as, well, horrible.
I mean, he talks about growing up surrounded by criminals, just the absolute worst elements of society. But here's the thing, that experience didn't break him. It actually created this unbelievable drive and a core philosophy. He basically built his entire life as a reaction to his parents. They were, in his own words, cheapskates. They saved every penny and sacrificed everything for the future. So what did he do? He decided to do the exact opposite, work his butt off so he could enjoy the money and give his family the absolute best life possible. This contrarian, do the opposite thinking. It became his superpower. So after that childhood, the next piece of the puzzle for him was the army. And that's where he got another crucial tool. It taught him that any mission, no matter how impossible it seems, can be done. You just have to figure out a way and push yourself way past your limits. This get-it-done mentality became the engine for everything he did in real estate. Okay, so you've got this mindset, right? But how do you actually start making money? It wasn't with a giant inheritance. It wasn't some lucky break. It was with a repeatable, honestly brilliant, and really simple strategy. Get this. This is what he paid for his first property. $2,750 for a totally rundown duplex, a property he calls the worst crap that nobody else wanted. And this is what it was worth after he was done with it. He put in about $6 or $7 grand in cheap materials and a whole lot of his own sweat, rented both units out for $800 each, and all of a sudden, the bank looked at it and saw a cash-flowing asset worth $150 grand, just like that. This simple process created this crucial 4-step loop that he could just run on repeat. Step 1, buy the garbage nobody else wants. Step 2, fix it up yourself. He calls himself a rebuilder, not a builder. Step 3, get tenants in there to prove it makes money. And step 4, the magic step. Go back to the bank, pull out all that new equity you just created, and go find the next deal. He just ran this play over and over and over again. Now, that little playbook for duplexes, that was just the foundation. To build a $250 million empire, he had to take that strategy, evolve it, and scale it up to whole new levels. And when you look at how he grew, it's actually super methodical. He started small, mastered one thing at a time before moving to the next. He went from duplexes to affordable housing apartments, then to fixing up beat-up hotels, and finally into low-management retail shopping centers. A clear progression. And the genius part is, inside each of those categories, he found these incredibly profitable little niches. With student housing, he wouldn't rent by the apartment, he'd rent by the bed, sometimes doubling or tripling his income from one unit. With seniors, he knew he had stable, low-maintenance tenants who paid on time. He wasn't just buying buildings, he was mastering these very specific, profitable systems. And on top of all that, on the macro level, he totally understood timing. I know, it's the oldest rule in the book, right? Buy low, sell high. But he actually lived by it. He sold his entire California portfolio when that market was red hot, took all his capital, and moved it to Florida where he saw way more room for growth. Okay, so we've talked strategy, we've talked tactics, but none of that, and I mean none of it, works without the most important piece of the mallah puzzle, the psychological engine that actually drives the whole machine. I mean, this quote just says everything, doesn't it? For Ben Mallah, real estate was never a 9-to-5 job. It wasn't a side hustle. It was a total, all-consuming obsession. To get to the level he wanted, it literally had to be his entire life. 18. He talks about putting in 18-hour days.
staying up all night painting apartments himself because he couldn't afford to hire anybody. It's just an extreme, borderline insane work ethic that, let's be real, most people simply aren't willing to adopt.
So when you boil it all down, his mindset really comes from these core beliefs: a complete obsession with the business, the extreme work ethic to back it up, and a real willingness to sacrifice today for a bigger payoff tomorrow. And crucially, 2 big rules: never, ever work for free, and always be your own boss so you don't have to answer to anyone.
All right, so what does all this mean for you right now? Well, Ben Mallah is adamant that pretty much anyone can do what he did, if they have the determination. He even lays out the very first steps.
He lays out the game plan directly. First, he says, fix your credit. It's everything. It's more important than anything. Second, save up a down payment. You might only need 3% for an FHA loan to get started. Find a good real estate agent. Hunt for a property you can add value to yourself. And finally, make friends with the banker. They're the ones with the money, and believe it or not, they actually want to lend it.
Look, at the end of the day, his story proves that massive success doesn't always require a fancy degree or a rich family. It requires a different kind of currency, that willingness to go where other people just won't. So, I guess the only question left is, what's the one step you can take today to find your first deal?